for projects just adjacent to that. And this is all water and sewer to go into the beautification that the county's doing and the Caltrans is doing. That's great, it's 1.2 million, but it doesn't address the immediate CSD needs. Does that make sense? There's money coming in, but it's not paying the bills we owe. It's not going to pay RCAC. It's not going to hire somebody. It's not going to replace Main down Highway or Center Mine Road. But it is great to come in. And I'm working on through Prop 50 another 200,000 that I mentioned before we go to jail. With all the money that's come out of here, we quantified 1.2 million, just under 1.2 million. And I'm happy to report right now, when you add all that stuff together, 100,000 for the insurance, 800,000, 400,000, 200,000, 1.2, 1.6, $1.7 million coming in the last 6 months. And money in reserve. Very proud of that. I don't have anything else to report, unless there's any questions.
Any questions, Don?
Well, I was just wondering if the board was aware of that, Jesse mentioned the 800,000 and the 400,000, of that Prop 50 money. That came from the Last Chance 2 project that was dropped by the county, and the great effort of the ag community to put a stop to the pond and plug project. And they've moved that money around to allow this money to become available. So big thanks to the ag community for standing up and putting it into that pond and plug projects.
The board is aware of that. Leah came to me when she realized, Leah Wills came to me when she realized that the board was going to redirect that money. I put her in touch with Jesse, and the rest you heard.
Okay, I guess that's it. Thank you very much, Jesse.
Great.
Okay, next is new business and old business.
What happened to 18?
Yes?
I just wondered if we ever got a final figure on what our insurance is costing us, how much it went up. Because I know that they talked about canceling it, and then I know that you had mentioned that it was potentially going up $70,000 a year. And I just wondered, you didn't have the final figures on that, and I just was wondering, what did our insurance go up because of the 3 claims?
Again, I don't have it on the top of my head, and I think you did ask me that, and I didn't get it to you, so we put it on the notes here. I believe it went up to $56,000 for this year.
56.
I believe, but I want to check on that.
Yeah, and
We're
that-
anticipating 70.
Okay, and so that was a $56,000 increase, you think, or
No.
just a total?
Total.
Okay,
So I need,
if you could, that would be great. Just is Flanagan still running that for you?
yes.
Thank you.
Okay, well, next, we're going to move on to item 18, which is constituents' questions to the board on the Leanna Moore claim. And some of the ground rules here is going to be to just ask one question at a time. We don't want multiple questions asked, one question. You can have a follow-up question if you'd like. Make your questions brief. And let's see, if it's something that the board will have to research to answer correctly, then we will do that, so there won't be an answer to that. Once again, I just ask that you make your questions brief and one person at a time.
Before you get questions, I'd like to make some comments that might help to answer some of the questions that some of you might have. We've never been shy about admitting that we made some mistakes on this board, and I just go over some of them. I'm really speaking for myself, and I'm sure my fellow board members will clap me on the head if they disagree. They might have other things to add, but one big mistake that I think we made, that I made, was a lack of training. It's easy to say that nobody suggested I get training. When I did ask to get training, there was no money available for it. But the bottom line is it's a board member's responsibility. Any elected official really is responsible for learning the job. And it took too long to do that. I don't think that the lack of training by this earlier board is any different from any previous IVCSD board, but that also was not an excuse. We need to get more training, and we have gotten training now, but I would like to make it a policy that any new board member gets significant training within 6 months of appointment or election. That's not a policy at the moment. Another mistake was not hiring an independent bookkeeper immediately after hiring Leanna Moore as general manager. Early in 2007, I can justify hiring Leanna Moore. I'm not going to go into that right now. Our situation in 2006 was desperate. We needed a general manager. We hired Leanna Moore. The mistake in my mind is that we did not immediately hire an independent bookkeeper to do the books. It's just, it sticks in my throat that we didn't do that. We also allowed audits to lapse. You've heard us talk about audits. We ask about audits often. We got answers to our questions that seemed plausible. We know now that they were deceitful. We were not aggressive. We should have pursued that. We should have demanded audits in a way that we did not for a while. Ironically, it's audits that started to lead us out of the morass that we were in. We asked enough questions about audits that we became extremely concerned about finances generally. And at a March meeting in 2012, we passed a resolution, not a resolution, we passed a motion asking or demanding a complete independent financial assessment. And at that same meeting, Leanna Moore resigned. So those are some of the biggies that I think were mistakes that we made. We have rectified all of those. We have gotten training. You can always get more training. I would like to have much more training than I've had, but we have had a significant amount of training paid for by the district. Well worth every penny, I think. We have hired an independent bookkeeper. We did that 2.5 years ago. The bookkeeper works for the board, and I can go into details about what the bookkeeper does, but that was a big and important and critical move that should have happened way sooner. We've taken other steps to create a check and balance that ensures that district funds are used appropriately. I think you've heard us mention that the board has a post office box that is accessible only to the board. All of our bank statements come to that box now. The members of the finance committee hold the keys to that box. Finance committee, I'm no longer on that committee, but the finance committee reviews all the bank statements, and I recently got concerned about the checks. All of our checks are kept in a locked safe in the bookkeeper's office, and the bookkeeper does come to all the financial meetings. So along the way, we've realized that board members come and go. We've all made mistakes. Previous board members have made mistakes. Future board members will make mistakes. But I think that we've realized that the way to run a secure and sound district is through policies, and we are gradually working on policies, upgrading them, changing them to fit this district, and I think we're straightening them as we go along. That's probably gonna never end, but that is in process. So I just want to make those comments before you ask questions, and maybe they'll answer a few.
And I agree with everything you say. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for saying that.
Anybody else have anything? Okay, with that, anybody like to ask us a question?
I have several lists on my phone. A couple of people couldn't be here tonight because they have the flu. So, I'm sorry. I have more than one question.
Whether should maybe come up with a microphone? Microphone.
Hi, my name is Cindy Tatum. I'm a ratepayer. I'm also a volunteer fire department for the Indian Valley Fire and Rescue. I'm asking several questions tonight of the board members for other members that couldn't be here tonight. Like I said, they've got the flu. One of the questions that I was asked to try and get an answer for was when the employee count went from 14 to 4. Did you ever think to question an employee, the employees that were fired, as to why? Or did you just simply blindly follow Leanna's lead?
Myself, when I got here, there was, I don't know, 6, 7 employees, I forget. The pairing, a lot of it happened before I got here. Anybody else have a?
We thought 14 was way too many. We thought it was fat. We didn't need that many employees, we couldn't afford that many employees. And the board does not hire and fire, as you know, but we thought that we needed to be leaner. We are a little too lean right now. So
Those 14 people were here before the items, John.
those were not Leanna's hires. Those
Right.
were Joe Wilson's hires.
But when Leanna came on, she had 14 employees, and then it went down to 4. So you thought that you guys, it was just too lean, or you guys were too fat with employees, so you thought the cutting back was a good, you didn't stop to think to ask the employees why they were fired or why they quit?
Everybody that left for different reasons. Isn't that right? I think there was one person fired for cause, but most of the people left for legal reasons.
Did you know that Leanna had John Chamel's rubber stamp?
Sure.
You did know that?
That came out in the fraud investigation. I'm sure you heard that.
And even though you knew she had this stamp, you didn't stop to think that maybe you should check some of the checks that came in?
I did.
This leads into a question of my own, and one of the problems I believe that when Leanna was in charge, and this is by no means anything bad or negative against Jessie, she was giving you spreadsheets that gave information about your financial situation, your statements of what you spent money on and what you didn't. I've been going to the finance committees, not regularly, but since January, and there's a lot of discrepancy in what you charged this month, what you charged, 2 months before, and the fire budget has been a question that I've been asking. 1 month you charged $7,500, and I tried to do the math to figure out how that administrative fee came about. It would have been paying somebody $25 an hour for 62 hours a week for 4.5 weeks to come up with that figure. And then I was told that that was a phantom figure. So when you're billing different departments for administration fees and it's a phantom figure, it kind of makes me think that maybe we shouldn't be using phantom figures. We need to come up with a more solid
Okay,
figure.
this is a question and answer. Do you have a
because they're phantom figures, they're not real.
I'll answer that question. If all these figures are generated by our bookkeeper, they don't come from us. We allocate things on what we think we may be using or needing. These numbers, particularly at this time of year, which is in the first 3 months of next year, these are kind of just allocations of potential expense. The actual charges as they come through, which you'll see when we get a little further in, tell us precisely what those numbers are. But administrative costs are an allocation. They're budget numbers work through the charge sheet. And it's not like we write a check saying, because you spent 4 hours talking to Jim about some issue with the fire station. That doesn't happen. You understand what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying, but the figures aren't matching. They keep bouncing around too much.
It's when you allocate costs without actual writing the checks, it's not going to be consistent necessarily.
Did you notice while Leanna was in charge that there was a large majority of the voters that didn't support her decisions?
Generally, there wasn't hardly anybody at the meetings. So I didn't see a large majority of that, no. I did not.
You didn't feel like people were feeling that Leanne had too much control and the community didn't?
This is a town of gripers, this is a valley of gripers, we hear gripes all the time. We heard them then.
I'm sorry I'm taking so long, I'm reading notes from other community members that couldn't make it, I'm really sorry.
Well, actually, that might be a good point. If you want to stop or react, you could come back up. Somebody else may have a question that may answer some of those questions. And it'll give somebody else a turn to speak. Todd?
What's the law or the government code that requires you to have an audit every year?
I don't know.
Shouldn't you know? After all, this is the main topic of this embezzlement. You're talking about you want to be trained. You've had 2.5 years. You mean you can't tell me I'm asking even the new ones. You can't
No, I
tell me
don't.
what the government code is that
No, I can't.
requires this board.
No, I can't.
I'm
So
not just
I
talking to you. I'm talking to the rest of the board. I want each one of them to answer. Blake? It's a government code?
Yeah.
So none of you can answer that question,
It's the
okay?
California Special Districts Code,
Okay.
and understanding the requirement, I think, is a little more important than memorizing the code number. We all understand the importance of that.
I would just say on this issue, seeing that this is the primary reason why she got
Well,
away.
it's a question. Do you have another question? We answer
I
that
do.
question. Okay. What's the next question?
Do you believe that government codes are laws?
Yeah.
Did you swear in your oath that you would uphold all California laws?
Yes.
So are you now admitting that you violated your oath of office?
Upholding them is something different than memorizing all the code.
I'm not saying upholding. I said, did you swear an oath to uphold the California Constitution and all California laws?
We could ask Jeff, and he has that.
I'm asking the oath.
Yes, so we can answer that. know that they did that. We know that the Constitution of the United States is in there as well as the Constitution of the state of California. So if you want the answer, yes, they all swore to uphold that Constitution of the United States and the state of California.
And protect it from all enemies, says something like that.
But I'm just trying to focus in on the law, the government code that was violated, your oath, that you're now saying you don't know what the law is, still to this day. You can't tell me what the law is. You can't say, tell me, none of you answered my question, by the way.
Oh, what was your question that I didn't answer?
Are you now admitting that you violated your oath of office
I
by
failed
not
to-
having audits performed every year?
Well, that's obvious, isn't it?
So you are admitting you violated your oath of office?
Yes.
Blake,
I mean,
that's
isn't
not
it-
Blake.
isn't it
Let's
evident?
go with the ones who were here during the embezzlement.
It's a pretty
I
obvious.
like your answer, Mr. Chairman. I'm asking the other board members, this is a question and answer, right? You got it on the agenda, so I'm asking the next board member who was present during the embezzlement, are you now admitting that you violated your oath of office?
So with the
James?
parliamentary procedure, Todd, they don't need to answer individually. The chairman can speak for them. The
Okay.
chairman has answered yes, that the oath of office, there are some mistakes that were made.
So he said that he did violate his oath of office.
Okay, that's what he said.
Thank you.
I have a comment that I'd like to make just as an observer. I think there should be a distinction between intentional and non-intentional.
Mr. Chairman, we'll have to, I can't, sorry, Judy, I
That's okay.
can't have comments. This is a
That's
question
all right.
session. So if anybody has a question, I need you to come to the podium and give your question at this time.
That's okay. You got the gist.
You can have a public comment at the next meeting, though, that would be a proper place for that.
Hey, Cindy, if you'd like to come up, I don't see any other hands raised.
Okay, so another question was, your duty as a board member for the IBCSD was to represent the interests of the district, including the people that are involved in the district, the people that live here, the ratepayers. It appeared to some people that you didn't listen when they tried to say that they thought something was wrong. The vast majority of the people in the valley are against the water cell. And they're wondering if you learned or if you've had a change of heart in the water cell because of what happened with Leanna and the people that spoke against her. Are you going to listen to the community better?
Well, we always strive to listen to the community better, and there's some people who are for it, some people who are against it. That's just something that we'll have to balance out.
That's a really good point. Some people are for it and some people are against it. Whenever you voted on the water cell last time to move forward on it, it was a unanimous vote, even though there were people in the audience that voted against it.
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with what you're saying.
Okay, well, this is a question to us.
I mean, she's not right about what she
Yes,
said.
we can't have that kind of comment, Will. The board has answered the
So
question.
They didn't vote to sell the water. They
Okay, but we
voted to
can't have comments on the question. We just have to have the question from the constituents of the board
So
and the response from the board.
we also have, we were elected to be in this post, to be in this position. And in governing, it may, the people chose us to make the decisions, right? We listen, but sometimes we have to make decisions that may be not the majority agree to. But if we feel like it's to the best, that it's of the best interest for the community, then that's how we base our decision.
Okay, I just want to make one correction. You weren't, it wasn't a vote, you weren't.
Well, the last time, it actually doesn't matter.
It does matter, this, with the exception of Matt, this board is fully elected. When you run for office unopposed, you are elected. We had the first fully elected board in the history of this district for about 7 years until Judy resigned. So we are all fully elected. It is a mistake on your part and anyone else who has said publicly that we are not elected. That's the exception.
It was just, maybe it seemed like we weren't elected because nobody else threw their hat in it to want to take the position that we have, which, maybe if that would have happened, this would have happened with Leanna. I don't know. But here we are, and we make decisions that we think are the best. Next question.
Moving forward.
I think where that confusion came, I was asked the other board several times, most of our French, and I was actually asked to be the board. Because it was an appointment to fill out a term for somebody else who resigned. And I think a couple of us got on that way originally, when we filled out that first term. And then we went up for election, and nobody else has ever stepped forward. And so the first time that each of us came on this board, we were appointed because somebody quit the board. And then when the election came up, nobody ran. We put our names in, nobody else would run.
Moving forward, I want to thank you for your time. I appreciate all of you being polite tonight. I experienced something the other night at the public relations meeting that I've never seen before from this board. Mr. McAtee was,
I take it, interrupt, but this is just strictly a
Yeah,
question.
we'll
and
go
answer.
on.
I can't say thank you.
Well,
no, that would be,
After-
for public
after-
comment at the next meeting, that would be perfect.
We'll just, we're trying to keep this.
Right.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Yep.
Do you want to come up? or-
Yes, yes.
Hi, I wasn't going to speak during this period because I was not here during the events that happened, but I do have a couple of questions. Can anybody explain to me why Leanna was allowed to live in Nevada while she was the service district manager?
Well, when we hired her, she was our only option. We've been without a general manager for a period of time. I mean, there was no general, when I first came here, I believe John O'Shea, Bell was the, he stepped in and he was a board member, but he was just an acting general manager because we didn't have it. And during, and we took, we flew the position and we got some people that she was the only one that would accept the money that we felt that we could afford to pay.
I remember a little more detail about that. After Joe Wilson quit, we hired a general manager who was one of the people on the staff. He lasted, what, 6 months?
He was interim, he was,
Well, yeah, as interim, and we were interviewing other people, but then he quit. And we couldn't find anybody. And John Schmidt volunteered to do it, even though he was ill at the time. Somebody had to take care of, see the check for pay, and things would run. John did that for a while, and we didn't know what to do. And Leanna then actually contacted us, and she said, I'm doing bookkeeping half-time, I'll accept the manager's job half-time if you can't find anybody else. We thought she was a savior. She came in and fixed a whole lot of things. And we were very pleased that she did that for us, because nobody else, we couldn't find anybody else to do it.
Did you post the position?
Yes,
Oh,
we did.
we went,
And once again, I'm just asking, and I don't know all of the history, so I'm not trying to, I
No,
don't
no,
know.
we
this.
flew the position, it was in the paper, and there was several applicants, and during the interview process,
we actually posted it twice. We went through 2 rounds of hiring, one in the spring of 2006, another late in the year of 2006. We interviewed several people. No one was interested in taking the job for what we could offer. Late in 2006, Joe Wilson had not made our loan payments. We could not make them that year, so we were facing federal receivership. These were really dark days. I don't know if you know what happens when a district goes into receivership. It means that in this case, it would have been the federal government coming in, setting the rates, running the district. Their sole purpose would be to get the money that they are owed on their loans. So it would have been, it's like bankruptcy in a way, but it's a policy thing. So we were pretty desperate.
I'd like to add to that, those loans is what Jesse was talking about, our loan to the USDA. Those loans were made before any of us on the board, before Leanna was here. We inherited all that. The loans that we're still trying to pay out.
Okay. My next question is, Jane, you said that this is a town of gripers.
actually, you should,
Okay, I'm sorry. Jane commented that this is a town of gripers. And my question would be, at this point in time, are you now listening to some of the gripes? Because apparently there were people griping back then or making comments back then that they had some concerns. And I don't know whether you addressed those concerns or whether you did not. But at this point in time, I'm asking, are you listening to quote-unquote the gripes or to the concerns of the citizens? Because I feel that it's important that the board that's representing the community represents the people that gripe as well as represents the people that agree with them.
yes.
And I think it's a fair question, and I think that's part of the learning process for all of us. I think we listen a lot better than we used to. It's,
Training helps with that.
well, yeah.
Good, thank you. And I also want to thank everybody for the mood being much better than, once again, it has been in the past. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? Yeah.
I'm Lena Admire, I'm a ratepayer and also a member of the community of the Valley, regarding state tax for country workers. It's clear that there's been serious issues with this special services district from the onset. I think that Jesse has done a great job of educating us all on that. What concerns me is that some of you have been on this board for many years. At any point, when you came on this board or during your tenure, did you look at what was going on? Did you do any research about specifically what a special services district is, how it should and can function, and what the benefits can be to the community by having one?
Aspects of it, but as far as right down to every detail of it, no. I did it myself.
This is very frustrating as a member of the community, to come to a meeting where there's an agenda item for questions to be addressed and answered. And I can imagine that this is tremendously uncomfortable for you. but at the same time, if you're offering to answer questions, you know, we really appreciate it if you actually did. I mean, good, bad, or indifferent, or if you'd even just say, you know, I'd rather not address that issue at this time. You know, it just leaves the feeling in my mouth that, once again, we're being given lip service. And I'm wondering if you understand that. That's
I
my
resent that
question.
when
No, go ahead.
well, when you say we're giving you lip service, that's not in context of what we were talking about, how we want people to act tonight.
Okay, but what I'm trying to get you to understand is that we feel like we're asking questions, but there's not any interaction, there's no exchange between you and the audience as to what really happened. And, you know, Jane, you did go over several things of what has changed since Leanna Moore was there, but I'm asking for more specifics, and I just feel like you guys just don't want to discuss this anymore.
Your original question was, do we have any understanding of what a special community services district does?
Have you done research into that?
Of course,
Okay.
of course. I would say that most of what I've learned about it is, it's like when your car breaks down, you learn how to fix the brakes, you know, and that's not a good way to learn a job. I think most of us learn skills on whatever jobs we have through OJT, and that certainly has been my experience as a member of this services district board. Something comes up, well, I don't even know what that is, I'll go find out and see if I can respond to that. So it's been, you know, it's been in fits and spurts. It's not, it's one of the reasons I think that we all need more training. We need it right from the get-go. We didn't have that, so we've learned, I didn't know what receivership was, for example. I learned that in a hot hurry. And as these crises come up, and there've been, you know, it's been years of crisis, that has been a lot of the way that I've learned about what a community services district is and what a board member's responsibilities are.
So when you were looking at going into receivership, did any red flags come up during that process that maybe should have been more apparent as you were going through the situation with, in retrospect, as you were going through the situation with Leanna Moore?
Well, Leanna Moore was not, she was not involved in the receivership. She was not the district manager. So what's your question?
My question is as you went through that receivership, did you see red flags that should have told you in the future things to start looking for? Because it just kind of seems like...
Yes. The USDA loans became of paramount importance. I would have had a big sale to make those loans. So yes, that was a big lesson, a very early lesson in my tenure on the board, and it's one I haven't forgotten.
Okay. And,
I want to answer that question. I've been looking here for the certificates that I used to have, and I don't have them anymore. I got them at home in the file. All of us have certificates from the CSBA training we went to in Sacramento and several other places. It's not, I mean, I would call that research. We on our own time, went to Sacramento and spent 2 days down there. And we went a number of other trainings. So it's not like we haven't tried to find out what our board does. I think we've all taken it seriously. We've all worked at it. We've all wanted to do the right thing for the community. There was never any intention of us not being willing to answer questions and not having a period of time at every meeting when people can ask questions. We've done our best to do that. It may not have been enough, but we certainly did our best to do that. We're not professionals, we're volunteers.
And to that I would add that we are volunteers. We do not get paid. And it could be a full-time job. Most of us have other work. Most of us have full-time jobs. 1 month I kept track of my hours devoted to CSD, and it came up to 39 hours in a month. I was appalled. No wonder It's a lot of time
Well,
for no income,
right.
and actually that time displaces income generating activities on my part, so
Right.
it's a big sacrifice.
But even though you are volunteers, you volunteer to do a specific job. And I think that's kind of entailed in that. You know, another question I have is in your training, since finances was such a huge issue in the fraud and the embezzlement, what kind of training have you guys taken to better understand the financial end of the reports that you're responsible to review?
Well, one of the trainings that I went to was last November, a year ago. It was a 3-day training program, and it was like maybe 20% of it or less was devoted to financials. And the one training we went to in Sacramento had some financial. Usually it's a combination of things, and financial is part of it. And learning what a special district is another part of it, and just all the other aspects of special district and personnel.
And those trainings that we offer, no matter what profession you're in, they don't start off unless you're going to be a district attorney. They teach you about forensic accounting.
Yes, I understand that.
So
So,
if you think that we should have some forensic training, we've gotten it in the last few months.
having said that, Blake, then do you guys understand that a budget is not a financial statement? And so we're still not seeing financial statements.
Well, we're seeing the result of audit.
Okay, but if we've not had a man in this position, and Jesse, who does a fabulous job, you have a year already of his, expenses and spending and income, you should be able to base future off of that with a more accurate budget and financial statements, at least on a quarterly basis
And
and
we
not
have to
monthly.
help a very sophisticated accounting company that's making sure that the numbers are the right numbers.
And who's the accounting company?
Barnard and Associates.
Oh, Barnard
Your
Associates,
bookkeep- in Quincy. They're the independent
But
bookkeepers.
they're bookkeepers, they're not accountants.
No, Barnard's an accountant. Barnard and Associates, it's a firm like Beckett and Kimmel is the major firm, and
Right.
Barnard is the other one. And Bro works for Bernard,
Right.
Bro's not an accountant, but Bernard.
But, so do we have independent verification of what they're doing, or?
Well, they get monthly, Bro comes to the meeting, I don't want to butt in here, but Bro comes to the finance committee meetings and presents a statement of expenses versus the budgeted amounts for that period of time every month. So yes, you have statements of actual expenses compared to the projected budget on a monthly basis presented to the board.
Okay. All right, and you guys have done ethics training then? You've taken the state's ethics training, it's both available online and in person?
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions? Yes.
I just wanted to have one question, and it was one thing you just said a little bit ago, Brad, was that you guys are elected to represent the public and everybody in the valley community. But then you went on and said that sometimes the majority isn't what's best for the minority. So how can you pass something that the majority doesn't want because you think it's better for the minority?
And that's getting away from this question and answer session specifically for the Leanne Moore claims, so.
Well,
That's
doesn't that
something
pertain
for
to
them.
the same thing, with Leanna, with, we're pertaining to what's best for the community, and, isn't that the same?
Mr. Chairman, it's up to you to decide.
Well,
You're asking the difference between a republic and a democracy. In a democracy, like the town meetings in New England, they literally vote on everything, the community does. In a republic, you elect people to make decisions. Your congressman doesn't poll you when he votes on things. They make this, well, they don't really, but they theoretically make decisions that they think is best understanding the system. You know, they actually are bought and paid for, but that's a different world. But, you know, the problem is, you know, they're reviewing the district's needs, like these loans. Should they go out and get a vote on whether to do this extension that was voted on tonight? No, they make a decision that they need to do it to keep the district functioning. So this idea of, you know, theoretically you could do that and just have everybody vote on every issue, but it just
No,
doesn't.
I'm not talking about voting, I was just talking about what they were representing, if they're representing the minority or the majority,
They're representing the best operating function of the district, according to their best judgment, because you elected them to make those decisions. That's what the system is. We elect the Board of Supervisors is elected to set policy for the county. They don't poll everybody. They decide based on what the law requires and what the facts justify. They make decisions. It's not minority majority. They have a responsibility to make decisions to keep the district functioning. That's their function. So, I mean, it's not, I mean, to try to split it up into, well, 51% of the people favor it, so you've got to do it.
No, I
If
was
it's stupid, you
reading
shouldn't do
what
it.
he had said was that, I
Okay.
just,
That may be not well said, but
I think that's basically what I said, that we were elected to make the decisions, and it may not be what the majority wants, but us being in this position, have a better understanding of maybe what the community's up against if we don't make a decision. You know, if we make a decision that may not be what 51% of the people want, or at least 51 of, you know, the majority of the people that came to the meeting maybe didn't want the water sales, but there's a bunch of other people who, there might have been just as many people out there that wanted it that just didn't show up at the meeting. So we can't necessarily decipher just because it's, you know, there's 2,000 people in the community and there's 40 people that show up and 30 of them want, you know, bound and determined to have their way in one thing. So, you know, the majority in the room may be for the one thing, but it's our responsibility to do what we think is necessary to keep the district healthy.
You know, Susie, on the wall in the office is our mission statement. And it says, our mission is to provide service for community health, well-being, and prosperity. And I think I can only speak for myself, but actually if I can speak for the rest of the board too, we've always tried to do what we think is best for the community. We don't get anything out of it. We don't get paid at all. We're trying to do what we think is best for everybody in the valley.
well, I wouldn't want to be in your shoes trying
I
to
wouldn't
make
want to be in
decisions
any
for
more either.
everybody in the community, I grant you that right away, I mean,
But somebody's got to
it's
do
such
it.
a sensitive thing
Somebody's
to
gotta
be
do it.
aware of the effect on so many, not just ranchers or store owners or,
And we
I mean,
were
it's-
thinking
it's
of
a
the
lot.
effect of going into receivership. You know, I mean, we just barely made the last payment. And if we hadn't got the insurance money, which is, you know, just kind of out of the blue, we'd be hurting right now. If we would have sold water, we would be in pretty good shape. And in the process, we wouldn't have been able to sell water if it was gonna hurt somebody, right? I mean, there's a process that they go through, Department of Water Resources, I think. And if it's shown that it's gonna adversely hurt anybody downstream that takes water, then they're gonna say you can't do it. You know, it wasn't us just saying, okay, we're gonna do it, and it's gonna happen. If people have an opportunity to come forward and show how it's going to affect them, and how it's going to affect them negatively, and if it's going to put them out of business, we don't want to put anybody out of business. We believed that it would go through the process, and it wasn't going to hurt anybody adversely. So we wouldn't have been able to do it. Okay, we're going to have to wrap her up here.
I know, this is my only opportunity to question you. What my question is to the board is, when you received that USDA loan, you turned over your financials, of course, to them, and they looked at your financials and said, oh yeah, you can afford this loan. So when it went through
You're
the
talking
process.
about the RCAC loan that,
No, that's a bridge loan. I'm talking about all your loans or grants. You eventually turn over your financials. So to the board, what I'm asking you, when you started seeing that you were close to defaulting on loans, but yet Jesse or whoever is in charge of your water is giving you a monthly report. Hey, here's our sales. Here's our numbers. There's no dramatic difference. So therefore, the income, when you turned over your financials to receive the loan in the first place, should be the same. So my question is to the board is, shouldn't that have sent up a flag to you that something is seriously wrong? We're still selling the same amount of water. We're still servicing the same amount of customers. The income should be there. The reason why we qualified for the loan in the first place, so therefore, we need to look a little bit closer. There's something wrong with our financials. So my question is, didn't you have suspicion yourself, the board, that something is up, the jig is up with the numbers, the fix is in? You mentioned there was a fix. Something is not right with the numbers. If you're selling the same amount, do you follow my question? Do you understand it?
Well, the question changed in the course of asking it, and so I will say again that the USDA loans that we make $157,000 payment on every fall were all incurred before anyone on this board. This board did not incur those loans. Those loans are for a fire truck. They are for the purchase of the Greenville Water Company from Bidwell. They are for the purchase of the Crescent Hills Water Company. They're for major repairs to sewers, they're for the Taylorsville and so on. Those loans, commitment to those loans was not this board's responsibility. We are responsible for paying them because our predecessors incurred those loans. So I don't know if that answers part of your question.
Are you not responsible for past board's decisions?
We are responsible for those loans. I'm not trying to say that we don't take responsibility.
I'm not talking about when, I just pointed out when the loans were made, they turned over the financials and you qualified for the money. Okay? Now, receivership is under, you on the board. Okay? Potential receivership. Okay? Jesse Lawson turned in the time frame and the auditor notified you that you missed the loan payment in April of 2011. According to the minutes that Jesse presented at the DA's office. So, wouldn't that raise a red flag with this board that, hey, we're still selling water, there's no dramatic difference in the customers we have, there's something that's